Alright, so I just woke up from a dream um, where I met Jesus underground. Basically, I was going to save my cat, and I had been there before. It wasn't deja vu, but I had the feeling that it was normal to be underground. And there was an underground city, and it was very wide tunnels, and I had been there before. There were all these boxes stacked out, and a golden retriever was going. There were a bunch of animals, a bunch of dogs, um, and I was making a video like this, like on my phone, like explaining things to people about underground. And I was using the dog as like a metaphor, and I was talking about the golden retriever as like a 4.0 animal, and it can act like a 5.0. And I was going to explain what a 5.0 is, but I never did. And then I went deeper underground, and then the video was me, the dog, and my cat. And my cat was like my old cat, Mr. Kitty, but he was like orange, like a tabby cat orange, instead of a tiger stripe cat. I forget what you call him. But he was like, purring, and I was petting him, and I was just casually like, wasn't it nice that, we saw Jesus or something? So I never saw Jesus in the dream, but in the dream, I knew that I had just seen him, and that he had saved both me and my cat, or I went down to save my cat, and it was kind of casual, and I had been there a bunch of times before, and I wrote a rap last night, a freestyle about on the way home about how I have dreams and I have visions, and I don't. The truth is, I don't, but I just did the next day. But anyway, before all that, in the dream, I was in my car at one point, and I had a bunch of people packed in my car at night, and I'm driving, and a woman behind me was older, an older woman, and not like old, but like old enough to not like my music I was blasting or playing. And so I remember I put on Jack Johnson for her, even though she was being kind of a bitch. So I put on Angel by Jack Johnson. And I remember Sleep Through the Static was the album that I put on, and Angel was like the eighth song or something. And I played that song, but I also played the first song of the album, which in the dream was a different song. And I kind of forget. But there was a bunch of lapis lazuli. My car was messy, and there was a bunch of lapis lazuli, all the lapis lazuli that I had ever lost, because that's a gem that's famous for you just lose it. And I found it all. It was all under my car seat, my front of my, like where my feet go. And I found it all as I was like trying to clean it up. And I was like, wow, this is like a treasure. Like I've been building up this a lot. I found one rock that was bigger than I had ever bought. So I had all my lapis all together, and it was like a pound, It was like very valuable for some reason. That's my gem. But that's it's funny because I actually I hold on to it so much during the day sometimes that like I'll give you an example. It's literally right here. This was in the dream. So I've been trying to train my mind in terms of like to know when I'm dreaming based on this, and I haven't decided yet if this tells me I'm in reality or this tells me I'm dreaming. But I think the large quantity of it connected with a part of my brain that was like, wait a second, why do I have so much? And so maybe I realized I was dreaming, and that's how I can remember this. But anyway, Then I get in a car accident, and my friend is driving, not me, at that point, and it's just me and him during the day. This is like before or after the other car part. And we just drove off. Like after we like crashed into the car in front of us, and the car in front of us was really mad, but we were allowed to just drive off. And our car was fine. And I was like, "Oh, you didn't do anything wrong, man." Like that was lame. And there was also a part with Alan from The Hangover, and I was friends with him, and we were laughing about the time that I had let him stand up and just flip everyone off while I drove around town. And there was this older guy who I had met before, and he was acting like he didn't know me, and I like showed him in my phone, and I knew him, and I knew how I knew him. I knew it was weird. I just knew everything, and anyway, being underground, it felt totally normal. I was making a video about it, like uh, talking about how Jesus was underground. Um, and when I was talking about the dog being a 4.0 that can act like a 5.0, the golden retriever, it was like I never got to the fifth type of dog, but I imagine it was like my old dog Boo, who I also rapped about yesterday, but I didn't record. And then, so a collie, basically, but black and white. But anyway, then the metaphor I was giving, there was something in my mind about, I was trying to explain about how medication was causing cancer. And I was explaining how I was required to take medication for a little bit, and I was developing hives, which never happened. I've been anti meds for myself. I've felt like I dealt with side effects from the meds that I had to take, given that I had an outburst. I've had a few episodes of doing things that are inappropriate, um, and then you suffer for like a year of like where you have to take your meds basically, or people basically think you're insane, and then they won't think that you're better until you're willing to medicate yourself for like a year, even though you don't want to. And in my dream, it had caused me hives and was obviously causing me cancer. And I was talking about how I had recovered from it, but I had to go through it strategically. And then on the other side of it, I was like all better, and everything was fine in the dream. I mean, it wasn't like there was evil stuff going on underground. It was as if it was a city. And the weirdest part of the dream is I knew that it's like part of me knew that I was about to wake up, and I was trying to remember where the city is. And I knew the word Valencia was coming up, and then another word. It wasn't Balenciaga, but it was similar to that because I saw that yesterday. But I know that Valencia, underneath, it was either the city underground was called Valencia, or the city above ground is called Valencia, and it's the city under Valencia. But I know that it had a name that was similar to Valencia, and yet it disappeared from my mind when I woke up, and all I can remember is Valencia. But I know for a fact that I was basically practicing the sentence. It was like, Balenciaga is under Valencia. And then when I woke up, I couldn't remember the Balenciaga part. And I think it was Valencia, California, but it could, of course, be a different Valencia. Um, this was not a. Anyway, my interpretation of the dream is that, oh, there was one part I left out, which is that the woman who was mad at me in the back seat of my car, she was like getting ready to go out or something, and she was mad at the music I was playing, which was too young, I guess, and like probably like Billy Talent or something, or brand new, I imagine. And she was complaining about a cleaning product that was in my back seat that was expired. And I calmly took it and threw it away. And I remember thinking the only reason that cleaning product is in my back seat is because somebody gave it to me and told me I should have it. And it was like, I knew that I was right in that I wasn't ever going to use it. It was just there because it had a reason for being there, but I calmly just threw it away. And the song Angel, I mean, I forget the song I actually played, but I was going to play Angel next. And Angel, to me, that means that the dream came from an angel telling me to clean my car. And then my cat and me were spending time together in the dream. I had saved my cat. My cat was in danger. It was like a rescue mission in the deep underground. And somehow Jesus was all the way down there, like all the way down. You think of him in the sky, and he's probably there too, but in my dream, we for sure interacted deep underground. And that part of the dream is I only remember remembering that part of the dream and making a video about it. And it's interesting that my consciousness is centered around explaining and this and heaven and angels. And so you could just say, oh, your dream is just, it's just your mind interplaying with all the things you think about during the day. And that's 100% true. But the song with Jack Johnson, Angel, it seems like that was a message from an actual angel. And then there was one other part of the dream where when I'm driving the car with the lapis lazuli underneath me that I'm kind of concerned about not having like secure, but I'm kind of happy that I have a bunch of it. I'm driving at night, and it's a red light, and I accidentally press the gas instead of the brake. So I go out into the middle of the intersection when it's a red light. And then I kept my foot on the gas. Once I realized my mistake, I realized the safest thing for me to do is to just keep going, even though I was supposed to have stopped earlier. Because of the mistake I made, now I have to just go through the intersection, because stopping here doesn't help anybody. So no one was hurt. I just kept going, ran the red consciously. And I was using that as like a metaphor. I was trying to explain to the people in the back seat there were other people. And I was like, sometimes you gotta, the safest thing to do is to keep going or something. Yeah. So Jesus was in the dream. Zach Galifianakis was in the dream as my special friend. And then my friend Sven was in the dream. He was driving the car that got in the accident. That our car was damaged, but then it wasn't, and then we were fine. And we got to drive away from the cops, and there was no like issue, even though the car was mad at us. The woman, the girl driving, she basically pulled right in front of us, like perpendicular, and we hit her after braking. And then she was mad at us, and we drove off. And It wasn't a hit and run. It was like we were allowed to. And yeah, bunch of this in the dream. So anyway, I just wanted to. The reason I wanted to document this while it's fresh in my mind is because Valencia is the one thing I tried to remember when I woke up, and also the feeling of knowing that I had just met Jesus and my cat was okay, my dog was okay, I was okay, and everything was okay. And underneath the ground is a city that is better than above ground. And there's some truth in that potentially as well, in the sense that um, there are real underground tunnels or bunkers. And the question is, what's the biggest, best one? And that's where I was, 100%. 100%. I was literally there like 15 minutes ago. And there were animals. There were there were there was a marketplace. There was like, but your memory was somehow like I had been there before, but it also felt like when I woke up, it felt like it was a lost memory, like as if it really happened. You know, like the feeling of deja vu where you're like feeling like that exact same thing had happened before. It wasn't like that. It was the feeling of like visiting a town that you've been to many times. Anyway, I think it's a sign from God that there is an underground civilization or marketplace or yeah, Elam's underground. And Jesus is in control. So have no fear. God bless.